Protection with Blessings. Maṅgala Sutta. By Venerable Uttamo Thera. 10. Well-spoken words. The commentary explained the blessing of well-spoken words, speech, with the Subhasita Sutta, well-spoken, SN 8.5 Subhasitasuttam. Speech possessing well-spoken had 4 factors which was described by the Buddha. These were well-spoken speech dharma, pleasant speech and true speech. The opposites were bad-spoken. The commentary emphasized here well-spoken speech as teaching the Dharma to others. It seemed to be quite narrow view. The world today is not the very one anymore like over 2,500 years ago, the time of the Buddha. Nowadays human mind is more defiled, the lifestyle and societies are more complicated. To solve human problems we need to use any skillful means including worldly knowledge. Anyways, any speech, any dialogue, discussion and talks which solve the tension, leading to peace and harmony are well spoken. Using Buddha Dharma only is very limited because not all human beings are mature enough to understand and accept it. We should never forget that there are more fools than wise. Dialogue between interfaiths is a good example to solve problems. We should not lean to any side and find the common ground which unite and harmonize religions and people. For every true religion, the basic common ground is not to do evil and to do good. Any religion, politics, economics, culture, science and technology which is not based in these common ground is unsustainable and leading to problems, instability, disaster, destruction and sufferings. The human world will be in problems and chaos if man's common ground and standard are to do evil and not to do good. Now we are in this direction. Here I do not want to give many examples in the situations around the world today, and most people already know and see it. World leaders, politicians, political parties even use unwholesome speech to get elected. They are in competition for power and wealth. Leaders, governments and citizens are like the relationship between parents and children in a family. The children will not be good without good parents, and a lot of problems will arise in family life. Most people, including Buddhists who do not have the knowledge on the Buddha's teachings, never take it serious and importance of speech and their results in this and future life to come. Therefore, I will retell one of the stories which happened in the time of the Buddha. By his true story we can know how and why speech is so important to all of us. This was the story of Kokalika monk. We can find his story in Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya and Suttanipata, SNA. E. 473, SN 3-10, An. 10.89 Kokalikasuttam, A. V. 171-4, also SN 6.10 Kokalikasuttam, S. I. 149 FF. He was the son of a financier and stayed in a monastery built by his father. At the time, the Buddha was dwelling at Savatthi. The 2 chief disciples Sariputta and Moggallana with their 500 monks were wandering together in the countryside. Near the rain retreat Sariputta and Moggallana separated with the other monks and both arrived at the city where Kokalika lived. They stayed the rain retreat there and asked Kokalika not to mention about him to the lay supporters. He agreed, and after the rain retreat next early morning he went to the city and announced to the people that the 2 chief disciples were with him. Therefore, the lay community brought many good things for the chief disciples as offering and placed it in front of Kokalika. He knew that the chief disciples were very frugal and would not accept the offerings obtained by suggestion. And then they would tell the people to give it to the resident monk. Kokalika informed this to the elders, but Sariputta and Moggallana did not accept them because they knew it was obtained by suggestive speech. They also did not tell the people to give it to the resident monk, because it was not suitable for any monk for use. Without saying anything, they left the monastery. Kokalika was left behind alone with anger and had strong grudge against them. After the rain retreat, Sariputta and Moggallana paid a visit to the Buddha. After that, the chief disciples with 500 monks wandered on tour and returned back at the place where Kokalika was. The lay supporters recognized the elders and gave a big offerings to the monks. The chief disciples accepted them and gave it to the Sangha, because it was obtained in lawful way. Kokalika saw this and went to the elders and accused them of evil monks with evil desires, making a false display of excellent qualities. He himself went to the Buddha and informed him that the elders had evil desires and had come under the control of evil desires. The Buddha exhorted him as saying the elders were virtuous and he should not say in this way. But Kokalika's hatred was so strong to the elders that he did not listen to the Buddha and accused of Sariputta and Moggallana in 3 times. After he left the Buddha and out of his sight, Kokalika's body became covered with boils the size of mustard seeds. It grew into bigger and bigger, bursting open, exuding pus and blood. Kokalika died with this kamic illness and his resentment at Sariputta and Moggallana, and then reborn in the Red Lotus hell. The Arahant Bhikkhuni Ambapali was a high-class prostitute before. In her past life, she was also a bhikkhuni during the Buddha Kassapa's sasana. At that time she addressed an old Arahant bhikkhuni as a prostitute and born as prostitutes for many lives until her last life as Ambapali. Moggallana was a farmer during the Buddha Kassapa's time. One day he was looking for his oxen in the forest and met a monk who was getting lost in the forest. So this monk asked him the way, but he was in rush and impatient. Therefore, he made the remark to the monk as talkative, and only salves were like this, so the monk must be a slave. Because of this unwholesome speech, he later was born as a son to a slave woman and named him Bhajaka and become a slave. See the Mahanarada Jataka, Jat 544, 6-252f. From this Moggallana's past life, we can justify the dangers and suffering of the rounds of existence. After the Buddha Kassapa Moggallana's parami, perfection, to become a chief disciple was quite mature because of the small unwholesome speech stillborn as a slave. At that time Ananda was the Princess Ruja, and she could remember her past 7 lives and 7 future lives to come. Ananda's 14 rebirths were worthy of contemplation, and why the results of Kama was one of the 4 inconceivable as taught by the Buddha. Ananda's 14 past lives. 1. The son of a goldsmith and committed a lot of sexual misconduct. 2. The son of a rich man in Kosambi and had a moral lifestyle and making merits. 3. Fell into Roruva hell for his sexual misconduct as goldsmith's son. 4. Born as animal, a strong male goat in Benakata country. It was castrated, the result of sexual misconduct, and rode by children and pulling cart. 5. Born as a monkey in a forest. The leader monkey of the group castrated the small monkey by biting its testicle to prevent it becoming stronger as enemy. 6. Born as a strong bull in Dudasana country. Therefore, the owner castrated him and used as pulling cart. 7 born as a human being in Vaji country, but did not has proper sex organ, neither man nor woman. 8 plus 9 plus 10 plus 11 born as 4 times as the consorts of King Sakka, the god king. 12 born as the consort of a common deity. 13 born as Princess Ruja, still not became a male being yet. 14 born as a male deity in heaven. Some Buddhists thought bodhisattvas were enlightened beings and living in special heavens with their transformation bodies coming and going with ease and helping living beings. The true stories in the Nikayas were different. Even true bodhisattva was sometimes born in hell and became animals. See Prince Temiya Jataka. Before that life he was in hell for sometimes for his past karma as king who ordered to execute criminals. If we study and observe today media and communities, we can see a lot of people do not know how to use speech properly for oneself and others. Most of these speeches are frivolous, idle and silly talks and wasting time. Sometimes these useless talks are creating problems and sufferings and leading to arguments and fights. A layman whom I knew argued with someone in a tea shop and could not control his anger and killed the man and ended up in jail. After a few years he came out from prison and this kind of thing happened again, but this time he was killed by others. Buddhists can be considered the best type of people who can use speech which transcends suffering. The Buddha himself was the best of the best among all with some of his monastics and lay disciples. I can give some examples of modern days Buddhists, Mogik Sayadawji and S.N. Gurnkarji, etc. Mogik Sayadaw's Dharma talks, Sunnata Dharma, was sending many Buddhists on the way to Nibbana until now. S.N. Gurnkarji's Dharma instructions and retreats also sent a lot of yogis on the way to Nibbana. Therefore, in the Suttanipata, Subhasita Sutta, the Arahant poet Ven. Vangisa said as follow. The speech, the awakened one, Buddha, speaks is leading to Nibbana. Putting an end to dukkha. This is the only surpassing and worthiest speech. SN 3.3, SN. P. 78F. CF. S. 1.31. S. I. 188 Sabhisattam. This is a very, very important topic. Even most people not take it seriously and not think about it carefully. It is a very wide and profound subject and not a small thing. We use words and speech nearly all times. Thinking is also inner chattering. The speech also a connection with the 10 unwholesome and 10 wholesome dharmas. See on the topic of well-mastered disciplines. Therefore, we should abstain from speech connection with the 10 unwholesome dharmas, and it should develop the kinds of speech connection with the 10 wholesome dharmas. It is impossible without speech and cannot escape it from hearing. There are 4 kinds of wrong speech and 4 kinds of right speech. The 4 kinds of wrong speech include in the 10 unwholesome dharmas. These are lying, divisive speech, abusive speech, and idle chatter. The 4 kinds of right speech include in the 10 wholesome dharmas. These are abstaining from the 4 wrong speeches, speaking only true, to unite the discordant, to encourage the united and to utter speech that makes for harmony, speak gentle, courteous and agreeable words, to speak at the right time, in accordance with facts, what is useful, moderate and full of sense. The 4 kinds of right speech included in the Noble Eightfold Path as right speech. Speech, good or bad, has power. Therefore, we must take them seriously. The results of wrong or right speech will follow living beings in the round of existence. Even a Buddha could not escape from it. The mouth is for speech and eating. Man needs to communicate with each other, so we use it all the times. If we are not deaf, cannot escape from hearing. Therefore, man invented languages and letters. All our human civilization is depending on it. Even though it is very important, we do not take it seriously. Therefore, we use it improperly, unwisely and harmful to oneself and others. Wholesome speech and skillful speech bring harmony, happiness, and peace, and even leading to the ending of dukkha. One of the factors for the realization of Dharma is listening Dharma. In the Chinese language, the explanation of the Chinese letter character mouth, ko equals ko, is an opening where speech comes out, and foods go in. Whatever coming out and going in is very important for everyone. It depends on how you use it. It could be harmful to oneself and others, and also could benefit for oneself and others. If we observe the world today, there are a lot of unwholesome things going on for the mouth. Polluted media and food poisonings are very harmful to the mind and physical body. Most media are talking about the development and promoting of greed, hatred, and delusion, using science and technology to poison food chains, chemicals, pesticides, etc. Some politicians are using the wrong speech and nasty tricks to get elected. How can the citizens rely on these leaders and their governments? In the Buddha's teachings, we can study and learn a lot on wrong speech and right speech. The Buddha was the most skillful person in using speech. We should learn from him. There is a lot for reflection and contemplation on this subject. I want to quote some of them here. In the Sutta Nipata, the Buddha gave a discourse on well-spoken words, Subhasita Sutta, SN 3.3 Subhasitasuttam. He distinguished 4 poorly spoken words and 4 well-spoken words. 1. Unwholesome or poorly spoken words and wholesome or well-spoken words. 2. Unworthy or unjust words and worthy or just words. 3. Unpleasant or unendurable words and pleasant or enduring words. 4. False words and true words. Then. Vangisa, the Arahant poet, praised the Buddha with the attractive verses, "Speak only, not cause us pain and not hurt each other." These are truly well-spoken words. Use pleasant speech which makes people glad, and not resorting to evil speech. These are pleasant speech. The speech, the awakened one, i.e., the Buddha, speaks is leading to Nibbana, putting an end to dukkha. This is the only surpassed or worthiest speech. Therefore, we should take care of the wholesome and friendly qualities, constantly watch the movements of our minds and speeches. In the discourse to Prince Abhaya, Abhaya Raja Kumara Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, MN.58 Abhaya Raja Kumara Suttam, the Buddha divided the speeches into 6 types. In the discourse, the Buddha gave the factors that went into deciding what was and was not worth saying. The main factors were 3. A statement was untrue or true, unbeneficial or beneficial, and not pleasing or pleasing to others. The Buddha only spoke what was true and beneficial. He would look for the time to speak these things whether or not it was pleasing to others. With the main 3 factors, speeches can be divided into 6 types. 1. Untrue, unbeneficial and not pleasing. 2. True, unbeneficial and not pleasing. 3. True, beneficial and not pleasing. 4. Untrue, unbeneficial and pleasing. 5. True, unbeneficial and pleasing. 6. True, beneficial and pleasing. The Buddha spoke only what was true and beneficial. It might be pleased or not pleasing to others, but he would look for the appropriate time to speak them. So the Buddha spoke only 3 and 6 types of speech. One of the attributes of the Buddha is Sugato, the well-spoken person. Sugato also has other meanings. The first quality of the Dharma is Svakata, well expounded, that is good in the beginning, in the middle and the end. Therefore, the Buddha was the well-spoken person. His speeches were educating and training to become a worthy person. The speech the Buddha spoke for attaining Nibbana that made an end to sufferings, dukkha. So, it was unsurpassed. The Buddha himself encouraged people for it. Therefore, among the speeches, the speech on the Four Noble Truths is the most blessing and the best protection. Last, I want to quote a sutta and the topics of conversation in the Anguttara Nikaya. It is very important because we converse with people nearly all times. With conversations, human beings create a lot of wholesome and unwholesome karmas in all walks of life, from the family level to government level. Therefore, we should take it very seriously. In the sutta, the Buddha reminded it to the monks. But it also relates to lay people. If everyone follows the instruction, will bring happiness and peace in life and not pollute the mind, which is the source. Topics of conversation. Anguttara Nikaya. The Buddha was staying in Savatthi, Anathapindika's monastery. One day a large number of monks, on returning from alms round, gathered in the meeting hall and were engaged in many kinds of bestial topics of conversation. Conversation about kings, robbers, and ministers of state, armies, alarms, and battles, foods and drink, clothing, furniture, garlands and scents, relatives, vehicles, villages, towns, cities, countryside, women and heroes, the gossip of the street and well, tales of the dead, tales of diversity, the creation of the world and the sea, talks of whether things exist or not. The Buddha, emerging from his seclusion in the late afternoon, went to the meeting hall. He asked the monks what they were talking about. They mentioned their conversation, and he told them that it was not right for monks to have these kinds of conversation. He taught them the proper conversation. There are 10 topics of proper conversation. Talk on modesty, contentment, seclusion, non-entanglements, arousing persistence, virtue, concentration, discernment, release, and the knowledge of vision and release. If you were to engage repeatedly in these 10 topics of conversation, would outshine even the sun and the moon, so mighty, so powerful, to say nothing of the wanderers of other sects. We are not only engaging in conversation with others, but also nowadays listening to a lot of them from the media, such as radio, movie, internet, etc. Most of us will never think that these media are teaching and educating us all the time. Why are there a lot of youth problems in family, school, and societies? Because they were educated by some media. If parents are not controlling and leading them in the right direction, most problems will never be solved. Instead, their minds will become more polluted. Speech is so important that it can lead to problems, disharmony, violence and wars in politics, economics, nationalism, racism, religion, etc. These are ill speech, hate speech, and others. Therefore, parents and teachers should always use well-spoken speech to teach and train their children and students at homes and schools as the most important duty and responsibility. The speech also can lead to harmony, peace, love, compassion, and enlightenment. There are 8 causes for wrong views to arise. 2 of the causes are very important, and the Buddha mentioned it very often in some of his discourses. These are listening to wrong talks, teachings and unwise attention, Ayonisamanashikara. Right view also based on listening to the right talks, teachings and wise attention. In the Noble Eightfold Path, right view comes first, because it will lead to the right directions. Therefore, the wrong view also will lead to the wrong directions. So, the outcomes of the wrong view are bad consequences and right views are good consequences. Topics on speech are wide and profound. People are using it every day in the life. And if we can use it skillfully, then it is a better world to live. To understand more on speech, it needs to study the suttas. The Buddha was called Satta Deva Manusanam, teacher of gods and humans. Therefore, well-spoken words are real protection and blessing.